disorder, depending on how you want to look at it. As a clinician, we look at what the DSM-5 says, but it's really just seasonal depression. It doesn't matter if it's fall, winter, spring, summer. It really can happen anytime. I don't know if you all knew that, but it really can. So what is it, right? And it really is just a type of depression that's related to seasons. Like, we know how we get, we're all just talking about it, it's cold, we're shivering, we're kind of just want to stay in our offices or keep a blanket on, or not really want to get up and move. And it does usually begin and end at the same time every year. So it's not like normal depression where it's constant, where it's just we're struggling. Maybe it's weekly, maybe it's monthly. That persistent depression, and it comes and goes with like different events where we can pull ourselves out of it and we can feel better. Or major depression, where we're not getting out of bed, we're not eating properly, we're overeating, we're not communicating. Maybe we have those negative thoughts that like suicidality or hopelessness, things like that. With seasonal depression, really it would be like as soon as it starts getting cloudy, which we talked about this last week too. Columbus is one of the cloudiest cities in the United States. So it's hard to say when it's not cloudy, because even in the summer it can be cloudy. But when it starts to get colder, when it starts to get more dreary, we can see those symptoms start to come on, like maybe we don't want to get out of bed today. Maybe plans that we had, we start to cancel. We're not really talking to family, things like that. That's when you know that it's more of a seasonal and not a major or persistent depression. Any questions on that as a whole? I do love to communicate, so if you guys have anything, please feel free to just throw it out there. Oh, yes, I have more. I do. I should have just left them out. There you go. In that, this handout really does go through a little bit more in detail of what I have on here. So meeting the criteria, right? These are, if I was to pull out a DSM diagnostic statistical manual and talk to a client about depression, these are things that I'd be looking for in seasonal depression, right? More specific during winter or summer, right? Occur in those specific seasons, and what do they look like, right? This isn't just, again, all the time. This is the specific season. And I notice, like, when spring hits, I start to feel better. I'm outside planting flowers. We get to that other side when we're like, this year I decided not to plant flowers. I decided not to go on vacation. That's what we're looking at on the other side of this. So symptoms for fall and winter: irritability, fatigue, low energy, hypersensitivity to rejection. Like, well, nobody likes being told no, right? Like, we all want to get to yes. But for some reason, in the fall and winter, we are just way more sensitive to that. Heavy. Like, our bodies just feel heavy in the fall and winter. Maybe that's because of all the layers we have to put on, or maybe it's just heavy, right? We know how we feel when our thoughts are heavy. Maybe we're not sleeping. Maybe we're oversleeping. Again, appetite changes. In the winter, please raise a hand. How many of you crave more carbs in the winter than you do in the summer?
Comfort food.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm. It's like Thanksgiving hits and it's all over. That's where we're at. It's nothing but, pies and sweets and bread. Bring on all the bread. For me, my kids are like, give me all the pumpkin roll, please. Can you make another one? I'm like, no, I can't.
It's a response to the cold.
It is. I'll make you soup, and then they're like, I hate soup. So then in the winter, it's like going to college. We gain the winter, 15 or 20 or 30 or whatever. And then just more sensitive to pain. Now, that could also be because we're just hypersensitive in general. So it's, again, our emotions, how our brain and the chemicals work in our brain, it's all changing. So we really are in this state, I mean, all those are very negative, right? So how do we come out of those negative things? Like, how do we look in the winter to not want to be irritable or feeling the little things, you know, whether it be a coworker or significant other or kids or pets? How do they not get under our skin? How do we change that negative thought process to a positive thought process? And really it is like changing our way of thinking, right? And we'll get into that more later on. And then here we go, the spring and summer. We don't really think about it in the spring and summer. Come on in. You're welcome.
Yeah, oh no, I'll be coming in here next at 1 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, how long you guys here till?
Till 12:30. Thank you. So again, a lot of people don't know that, you know, seasonal depression can also happen in the spring and summer. And maybe that's for like vampires who, you know, like to just like the cold and wet. And so then when the sun comes out and all those things start happening, again, trouble sleeping, it stays later longer, right? So it's 10 o'clock at night and you're like, what is going on? Like, why am I still outside? Weight loss because we're not eating properly. Do you notice like when it's way too hot out, you don't want to eat?
Yeah.
You don't. If I give any advice on that, it is making those healthy choices in the summer. Make charcuterie boards, make fruit ones, meat ones, crackers ones, things that you can like graze on all day. So you're not like turning on your stove, your oven, you're not, you know, I mean, even crock pots are good, so maybe you could make something in the crock pot to eat for later, so you're not turning on things to create more heat in the home. But things that you can put in the fridge to allow you to just pull in and out. And again, they're going to provide you with all the things that you need, like the protein, and fruit's always a good one, but because, you know, some of it is more water weighted, you'll notice that you won't eat as much of it. Like you don't, and hydrating, right? So if we're eating a bunch of fruit, but then we also need to be drinking our water. And we forget to do that when we get really hot. Or if we're really active, like if we're out doing things, it's just like, oh man, I forgot to eat because it's so beautiful outside. But then now, I mean, maybe it's a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing. I don't know. When we talk about we've gained this weight in the winter, but now I've lost it in the summer. So making sure that we're being consistent in our weight, right? It's not because we're seasonally, you know, feeling down about whatever it might be, or that we're too active and we don't have time. Making sure that we're always putting those things into our day is important. Agitation. I know when I'm hot, I am not a nice person. I'm not. I can't function properly in the heat. The annoyance comes out, that irritability, all of it. And it's because of heat. So noticing that, like, so how do we mitigate that? Well, I know it's hot from this time to this time. I think I just might stay in the air conditioning today. Or, I mean, I don't know, the building is so cold today. Hopefully the air works in the summer, right? And then of course anxiety. I think we all get a little bit of that in summer. That's one of the big ones in the summer. And then the bipolar mood changes. Doesn't mean you're bipolar, it just means bipolar mood changes, the up and down, right? We may have a really good week and then we may have a really bad one. So again, later we'll get into like how to mitigate these. Like, what are we looking at to make sure that we're not feeling these things? Or if we are, again, it is okay to have a poor appetite once in a while. It's okay to be agitated. All those feelings are valid. It's just making sure that we come back around and we say, okay, I need to maybe do better today. Maybe that's do better in getting at least 3 meals in and not just one, or drinking my water, or apologizing when I am negative to somebody. Maybe I didn't do that yesterday, I'm gonna do that today. Sorry for my mood, I'm just hot, or whatever. Or I wanted to go to the pool when I had to go to work. This one is a big one. I will leave it up here for a minute if you guys wanna like go down and like put this on a piece of paper or on the back of your, well, I don't think I brought any pencils. But it will go up. You can also find it online. These are questions that we're gonna ask about seasonal affective. right? So if you're coming in and we're having a conversation, these are things that I wanna know yes, no, or sometimes too. And then these all add up, and then it puts it on a scale. Another good one would be the PHQ-9, that's the depression scale. That one I would have to put a disclaimer behind and be like, seek whatever professional help if you score X, Y, and Z on that, right? This is kind of the same thing, but I think for this one, it gives you a better idea of where am I? Like, how many of these did I say yes to, right? So maybe I need to seek, go talk to my prescribing doctor. I think seeing your primary care for something like this is always fine. They're going to be the ones to say, okay, we can mitigate this in these ways. Maybe it's a vitamin D supplement, right? Which we'll get into more later. Or maybe it's a light. Maybe it's, what are you doing? Like, are you doing anything or are you just staying in? Let's see what we can do to get your day looking different before maybe we move on to things that are like medication and we have to go see somebody else. Maybe you do just need to talk to somebody. Listen, I love it. Come see me anytime. So these are good questions to ask. And again, yes, use your phone, take photos.
I got a question.
Yeah.
So when we talk about like this seasonal affective disorder, like is that relating to like just the change in the seasons and I guess like where the earth is in relation to like the sun or whatnot, or could that also be relating to like anticipation of the holiday season? Because I know that like that can kind of be a trigger for a lot of people where there's something where maybe folks have experienced this like a loss during the year, so
Yep.
and then there's that anticipation of that those first holidays that come in. Like, is that something that would also
Yeah.
be considered seasonal? Or?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
For sure. And really, now that, again, fall's in that frame. So when I say fall, winter, spring, summer, it's grief in every fall. Like say, or you lost somebody in the summer or spring, and now we're grieving during that season. That's a seasonal depression, right? Because I know in the fall I lost a parent or a grandparent or a brother or sister or friend. And you add all the outside environments onto it, and that's what makes it just a little bit harder. And that's where we want to focus, where I talk about later of understanding where that can sometimes move into that persistent depression or that major depression. Because now we've just spent a season trying to cope with maybe a loss, and I never really had that problem before. And so now I relate that loss to the changes in environment. So it's wet, it's cold, it's snowing. Even when I go to work, it's cold, and I can't find a functionality that's like proper for my body, right? I can't seem to get out of it. And that's where it moves on to more of just the season and into every season. And how do we mitigate that? So grief, loss, anything can be natural disasters, or all parts of season. A good example, like California right now, this is gonna be a big one for them, like this whole season, right? For years, and they'll be worried about that for years to come. 12 million people a year, that is huge. I mean, depression in itself affects, I say everybody. I feel like we all deal with it in some way, shape, or form. And if you say you don't, I feel like that's a lie. Like, because it's okay. Feelings are always valid. So when we look at the average age of somebody who deals with seasonal depression, we look at that 18 to 30 range. Women, they do say statistically women are higher than men. I don't know if that's reporting or not going to therapy or not, being on maybe like antidepressants or whatever it might be. Years ago, I would just say, nobody wanted to talk to anybody about anything and nobody wanted to talk about medication, so you really couldn't have a really good idea. But now I strongly think that we do a lot more talking than we don't, and that's a good thing. So just looking at these numbers and seeing like, you know, ratio to men and women is 4-1. So, but again, look in the room, right? Any questions on that? On the numbers? I think the one that I really like to draw attention to is where the 9 out of 10 people who talk about mental health, right? It's a stigma and it's discriminatory, right? Because they have it. So they're being looked at as it's an issue, which is part of the reason why people don't like to talk about it. And so, because if I were to say, you know what, no, I'm just struggling, like it's winter and I don't like winter and I get a little depressed in winter, and then somebody's like, why are you depressed? You have a good job, you have a good family, like, what do you mean? No, like, it's dark out and it's cold and it just doesn't make me want to do anything. That has nothing to do with whether or not I have a job to provide for those things or whatever. But that's where I see sometimes what people are telling me the conversation goes. Well, you have a roof over your head and, you know, you have food in your mouth. And those are the positives. Those really are. Those are things that we look at. That's how we change that narrative, right? But remembering that that is a stigma. So when people are talking to you about things that they're struggling with, no matter whether it be seasonal depression or depression in general, anxiety, just being empathetic and listening to that will help break that stigma, right?
Carrie, I actually do have a question on percentages. So I know the Midwest is obviously going to have more compared to the southern states, but is there a breakdown of like what areas have the highest versus not besides?
I'll get it for you. I'll get it and I'll send it out. Yeah. So when I look, I kind of just, for this as a whole, I just wanted to do a breakout of like national numbers, right? But I'll get like a state by state. I know it's there somewhere. And I know I've seen it.
It's not necessary, I was just curious.
Oh no, I'm happy to do it. Because it is, I think it's important to see, right? Especially like, we talked about Washington State. I mean, that's where I come from, coming back here, and it's very cloudy, very, you know, but I don't know if there's more things to do. You know, like you can go skiing, you can snowboarding, you know, hop on a ferry anytime, you know, like, and go somewhere else. Where, I mean, I hate to say, I grew up in Ohio, so this is not a knock by any means, like, but I don't ever feel like there's a lot to do, right? Especially in the winter. So knowing those numbers, knowing what that looks like in other states, my daughter just said it to me yesterday, I just don't want to live where it's cold anymore, like, but I don't know where I would go. And what do those things offer? And what do they offer in all the seasons to be able to provide you that balance that you need in your life, right? And so I will definitely get that out.
Do you know how old these statistics are?
I just pulled these yesterday, from 2024.
Okay, that's what I was gonna say, it's intriguing to look at the 50% of people 12 to 17 said depression symptoms. So I didn't know how updated that was with everything that happened with COVID and everything.
Oh, you know, and based off probably who did it, it could be different based off who does the survey and where they come from. And how many, I personally believe a lot more of those 2020 like teens, graduating class and just right after are more vocal than maybe adults. I mean, they're adults now, over them, right? But where I can say you go back like 5 years and they probably wouldn't have been as vocal about, you know, mental health stuff as I think they are now. But the good thing is sometimes even as a parent of a child that age, and I want to say a lot, like, is it that bad? For them it is that bad, right? So remembering that whatever they're struggling with, whether it be because it was COVID and I was isolated or whatever, and then that was that season that now has transpired into what we're seeing as more of a persistent depression for these kids. Because they never really got out of that season and they're still kind of stuck in it. Even though they're out and they're doing things and they seem to be living normal, active, like working, hanging out with friends' lives, they still have a very depressive mindset. So these are major depression symptoms, right? So this is, we are saying almost all day, every day, right? We are now at the hopeless, worthless, like suicidality thoughts, right? We can't concentrate. We are continually irritable and agitated or worn out by just getting up. Getting up to brush our teeth is now like a chore. Getting out of bed is a chore. We now are not doing things that we used to enjoy. We're not doing friend game night or taking the kids to a movie on Friday or doing pizza and popcorn or whatever it is. This is where we know we're in a major depressive state. So doing our part, triggers, communication, how do we help those around us really handle what we know as seasonal depression, right? So you were talking about it earlier with, just the clock and how the clock works and our body being, out of alignment for all the things. Daylight savings times happen, now it's darker earlier, it's dark when we go to work, it's dark when we leave work, right? So understanding like how much lighter you're getting, changes in that melatonin and serotonin in your body. I know people who will go to the tanning bed in the winter just for that light, and I'm like, I'm not sure which one's worse, like feeling depressed or now we're putting like, for me it's like skin cancer central.
Yeah.
Understanding how weather and temperature affects somebody. Like, are you just not a cold weather person? And that's why we notice that every winter, fall, like before we really get into like warmer temperatures, you're just kind of down, right? And what is that, and what is the stress of the season to you? Is it that you have to get bundled up? You don't like to shovel snow? Different things like that, right? You don't want to get your kids in 10 different snowsuits and not put them in a snowsuit because they say don't put them in a car seat, or I have to wrap them in a blanket. Do you have a blanket? And it's already afraid to get them in the car. But in the summer, you're just in a onesie and we're good to go, right? But it's stressful thinking about that. So how do we help, right? This is where we're going to engage in meaningful activities. This is where we're going to be like every Friday night in the month of December or January, whatever, just through the quarter of snow and nastiness is game night. And if we can't do it over, like if for some reason there's snow and we can't make it, there are so many games that you can now play on your phone, like in groups. You can play Cards Against Humanity on your phone with your friends. So much fun, learned that during COVID. It was a great time. And it puts you all in this big chat. And so good times, right? Set small goals for yourself. Not only are you setting them for yourself, but work with your friends to set them. So maybe you guys maybe you're like, you can do it, but maybe they're more down than usual. So maybe we're gonna pick a day during the week to where we get out in the snow or we get out in the cold and we walk. Even if it's for 5 minutes, we're just getting out, we're getting that. Or we're gonna go have lunch or dinner. Maybe we take a cooking class. Maybe we find things that we enjoy and we figure out how to go and do them. And you get things on a calendar. And I'm very big on if somebody cancels, like you let them cancel. There's a reason. Not during seasonal depression, right? We wanna know why we're canceling. Why are we canceling? Why can't you go unless you're like running a fever of 102? We're going back to school, right? You're throwing up. Your fever's above whatever, then we might be going to our friend's house, right? We might be going over there, we might be saying, oh, well then I'll just bring dinner to you. I'm gonna come over, I'll bring a board game, we're gonna hang out there. That's still getting them out of the zone, right? It's easy in seasons to wrap up on your couch and watch TV alone. I mean, even read a book, all those things are fine, but they're not fine when you know that you struggle with depression in that season, right? So again, embracing the outdoors. I love the rain. Living in Washington was great for me. However, my husband, it was not. That first season was like very hard. It was very isolating. Like just like the whole family was kind of isolating, right? Because I don't wanna go. Like, why? I'm not gonna go anywhere. It's raining, it's gross, it's cloudy. Okay, I get it. Not anymore. Definitely not like that anymore. Embracing the hikes and go to, Hocking Hills, go, to a small little town that we have. I've noticed that, okay, Ohio does have some cute little places where you can go and find a cool coffee shop to go get coffee and walk around that town, whatever it may be, or to get lunch in a new spot. That's a big one I like to do is, okay, where haven't I been? Where can I just go on like a Saturday morning, afternoon, and go either grab a new coffee or grab a sandwich or whatever it may be to try something new. And that, one, it gets me out of my house. I don't isolate, and it allows me to see something and try something that I haven't. And I always drag somebody with me, normally my kid. Do's. So when we are helping our friends, our family, we want to set boundaries because one, we cannot fix anybody. Like we cannot fix it, we cannot take it away. So we want to set boundaries. Like I'm here, I provide like this date, whatever, if we need to change it, we can. But I can't be your person every day if that interferes with your own life, right? Always being patient. Individuals with any type of depression, sometimes it gets really hard because negativity is hard, and that's what depression is. It's just negativity. This is funny because last week we were talking about our like styles of where we are at in communication, and I kept saying how it's okay to be assertive, and it really is. Like practice that assertive communication. Like this is what I have for you, and like if we set boundaries and somebody's trying to break them, we have to come back to, no, I'm sorry, like I know we're scheduled, like do you want to reschedule to this day instead of this day, right? We're still there for them, we're still doing something with them, but we're keeping our boundaries, right? Showing that empathy, right? Understanding. Again, don't fix it, and don't give up on somebody just because they're not. Maybe going at your pace of understanding how to deal with it, especially if they're new to these feelings. And again, it can be for multitudes of reasons. And if we're struggling in general with grief or loss or guilt or whatever, then what are we helping with, right? And where do we get them? And if you're not helping, where can we get that person to make sure that they get the help that they need, right? But always staying in communication with those individuals. Like, and that can be part of your boundaries. Like, we have this day that we set, but then maybe another day, like, I'm just gonna text and check in. I have it on my calendar for me personally. They don't know it, but I just shoot them a quick, like, hey, how are you doing? How's your day? Right? Any questions on that? I know it can be a lot. So, treatment, right? Light therapy. You can get one off of Amazon, and it sits right next to your bed.
So do you feel it?
When we were stationed in Germany, Army ACS had them. Like you could go and rent them for so many days. What I found was it's easier to just buy one. Finding a therapist. Again, I think talk therapy is one of the best things anybody can do. I don't care if you're happy, sad, mad, if your marriage is great and there's never been a problem ever, if you have a great relationship with your kids, going to therapy just makes things better. Being able to talk to a neutral party just makes things better. It allows you to see things differently, and sometimes it even makes you question yourself, which is a good thing. We don't have to be prideful. Antidepressants are always an option. Talking to your primary care doctor about them, seeing a psychiatrist, making sure that it's right for you, right? And vitamin D supplements. I bet if any of you went and got tested, you would probably find that all of our vitamin D levels are very low. So just if you take supplements, make sure it has a vitamin D in it. Especially here, again, it's very cloudy in Columbus, so we're not always getting that vitamin D, right? I have put links in here, and again, these slides will go out, so you guys will have access to them, of different ways that you can do things, like All Trails app, paddling. If you guys don't know it, you can rent stuff from Outdoor Rec, like the paddle boards and the canoes and the kayaks. Go grab one, take it up to, Hocking Hills or, what is it, Mad River Mountains around here, like, go up there and go tubing. I don't think we have tubes, but these are things that we can do to get out, right? These are ways that we can treat seasonal depression on a holistic level. Like, this is just making sure we're getting out, getting active. I love All Trails app. It's one I personally use, but there's a lot of other great ones in there too. And if you like hiking, I mean, even if you don't, just to go and see the scenery or take the drive is always nice too. I don't know, go to Amish country and see all the cows. For me, that would be the best day.
I can say that for me, the vitamin D supplementation
Mhm.
that helped for me. Like, this was the first year that I noticed that I had an issue where it was like, as the season changed, I noticed I was like, man, I feel so just sort of lethargic. A lot of the bullet points, like some of the issues, like it was like I was hitting pretty much every one of them. And I had my wanted to have my annual doctor's visit, like you said, I had my labs taken, and they found that like in my blood work, my vitamin D came back like super low.
Yeah.
So my doctor recommended that I start on like a vitamin D supplement, and I noticed that made a total world of difference. And like just energy levels. And,
Yeah. It's like I think there's like a
D3.
Yeah, and the K2 or something, like there's one that's like a combined that I take it and I love it, but I mean, I'm also very pale and redheaded, and so I try to stay out of the sun, but know that that doesn't help, right? And we think about that when we're fair skinned, and if we go out in the sun, what does that mean? But then also knowing that we need vitamin D to not feel like we want to stay in bed all day. I know in the winter, it is very easy to want to be like, oh no, I'll just pull that cover right back on up and this feels amazing. I think the other day I slept until 9:30, like on a Saturday or something, and I was like, what is happening? And it was dark, like my room was dark and I was cozy, and it was still dark technically outside because it was just, we haven't had sun in like days. So go ahead.
So I was just gonna say, if you know of that's going through those, that VA do give out the lamps, because I got one.
Nice.
So.
Good. Yes, the VA does.
How long do you have to like use it during the day for doing that?
They just tell you to like use it, like every morning at so many feet away, so it's in the corner of my room,
Okay.
and I just turn it on when I'm getting ready for work, and it's like, it's not warm or anything, but it's just like the sunlight that I've been missing, that wakes you up in the morning.
It really is. I hadn't even heard of them like being something that you could, I think of UV lights, I'm like, oh, we're gonna go to the tanning bed, and who's doing that?
Yeah.
Not me. So, but then when I started working for ACS over there, they're like, yeah, we have lights. And I was like, so confused. And they were like, yeah, for seasonal depression. I was like, oh my gosh, that's brilliant. But you can you just turn it on and stick it in the corner and get ready with it in the morning or at night during your nightly routine. It gives you a little bit of energy before you go to bed, but allows you to maybe wind down. Just not something that you're gonna like sit and stare at, but yeah, no, that's amazing. Thank you for letting us know that. So when to call our doctor, again, we're having those suicidal thoughts, right? If we are social withdrawing, like you set a plan with a friend and you just keep canceling it. Like we're canceling all of them. Like I say I'm gonna do it and then I don't go. Ever. We start having problems at work or school, right? If we have kids or grandkids or whatever, and we notice that now our work is being affected. Maybe we're not meeting performance standards. Maybe our kids aren't getting work done. These are things that we notice, like in those around us, right? Substance abuse starts. It's very easy to isolate and drink. Now, you know, marijuana is legal, and then it's just very easy to sit at home and partake, and now the next thing you know, it's a problem, right? We're coming to work with it, or we forgot that we had went there and got whatever, and it's still in our purse or in our backpack or whatever, and now we put our job in jeopardy because we've just brought, you know, gummies onto the installation. That's a federal offense, right? So understanding like choices that we're making because we're in a state. And it's not because I meant to, it's just because I forgot because I'm in a state. And then it's just impacting life and functioning, right? Maybe we are missing work all the time. Maybe we're not making it to like school functions for our kids. We're not checking on our family members, our own family members. Maybe we have sick parents or older parents and we're not checking on them. So now we're not only affecting ourselves, but we're affecting other people, right? So really seeing how those things are working, because when we do get in that state where we allow a depression to take over, we have potential to do things like lose our jobs, you know, and that, if that's our livelihood, then what happens? Because now we're going to even find ourselves in another state because now we're dealing with loss of employment and loss of finances. So it's a trickle down domino effect, right? Because now we're dealing with all the other things on top of it. So trying to mitigate those and making sure, like, do I know that I feel this way, and if I do this, what will it do, right? So when we talk about having negative thoughts and thoughts of worthlessness or not wanting to get out of bed or checking on friends, like we know, like all those things also pertain to us, right? Like it's easy to want to take care of somebody else, but are we doing those things for us too? Are we practicing self-care? Are we going for a hike just on our own? Are we gonna go, you know, maybe it's just getting out of the house and going to Barnes and Noble and walking around for an hour. I don't want a new book, or I don't need a new book, but I'm just gonna walk around because it's quiet. I'm out. It's not outside, but it's inside, it's around people, right? Am I taking those negative thoughts and saying, how do I make it positive, right? Like I don't wanna get out of bed today. Okay, and go one foot at a time. Right, then left, go to the bathroom. We're telling ourselves, we are now guiding ourselves out of bed, into the bathroom, brush your hair, get a shower. And soon enough, you'll start to just be like, okay, I'm up. Okay, I know I need to get up. Again, where that becomes a problem is when we're here and we're not getting up and we're not able to tell ourselves those positive thoughts, right? So positive, changing our negatives to positive, having that positive self-talk. It can be strong woman man pose, just I got this today. My hands on my hips, I got this today. Even though in the back of my mind I feel like I don't have it today because I heard on my weather that it was supposed to snow again. And I was like, I want more snow, but okay, I got this today. Put on my hat, put my gloves, bundled up a little bit more and said, let's do it, right? And I have clients all the time who are like, I sound so silly. I'm like, I don't care. Sound silly. Like if somebody tells you you sound silly, be like, I got through the day. You didn't hear, right? I got through the day. And that's the biggest thing. Also, 3 positives every night before you go to bed. I say it every time. If we are showing ourselves how we have 3 positives in our day, then our day can't really be negative through the whole thing. And it can be that easy. It can be like, I got both feet out of bed. I ate a grilled cheese and I drank a glass of water. Now, if that's all you ate and drank, that's definitely not enough. But you got out of bed, you had to walk downstairs to make it, and you had to get the water, right? So we've done all the things that we need to do to at least get to where we need to be. And tomorrow, how do we make it better, right? How do we add, I had some eggs for breakfast, or oatmeal, or I didn't call off work sick, or I didn't stay in bed. So working at, again, I go back to those SMART goals. Those can be anything. That can be your day. That can be whatever it is that you need to get through them. As long as we are telling ourselves we there a bunch of people out there? Like,
Not a bunch.
okay, okay. I don't know what's after us. But so I wanna make sure I get the time. But, so, I think this is a lot of resources. So, always know we have 988. 988 is, you know, key. There is seasonal affective disorder for, you know, NIMH, which is where, like, this, document I put out for you guys is from. And then there's also a video, if you wanna go to YouTube, if you like watching videos, there's some podcasts, some books, and then just information for kids too on there. Some people wanna know about their, you know, what their children might be going through, different things like that. Any questions?